The year is 1929. The location, Istanbul, Turkey. Inside the ancient walls of the Topkapi Palace, a building that had served for centuries as the seat of Ottoman power, a monumental task is underway. The new, secular Republic of Turkey is modernizing, and that includes cataloging the vast, dusty archives of the sultans. A German theologian, Gustav Deismann, is meticulously working his way through the palace library. He is not searching for lost maps. He is organizing the sprawling collection of Islamic texts, royal decrees, and forgotten artifacts, and then he finds it. Not a treasure chest, not a golden idol, but something far more perplexing. A fragment, a single piece of dried gazelle skin, covered in intricate, fading ink. It is beautiful. It is clearly a map of immense skill, drawn in the unmistakable Portolan style, a highly practical type of sea chart, defined by its web of crisscrossing rum lines that showed compass directions between ports. It details the coasts of West Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, and the eastern coast of a new world, South America. The map bears a signature, a name and a date. Piri Reis, Admiral of the Ottoman fleet. The date, the month of Muharram, in the Islamic year 919, to the Western calendar. That is 1513. This is, by any measure, an extraordinary discovery, a genuine, verifiable artifact from the very dawn of the Age of Discovery. It shows the world as it was just beginning to be understood. Piri Reis himself, in detailed notes written along the margins of the map, explains his sources. He claims he compiled this chart from over 20 different maps. Some were from contemporary Portuguese explorers, others, he claimed, were ancient. One, he sensationally attributes to Christopher Columbus himself a map drawn by the great explorer, now lost to history. For decades, this is what the Piri Reis Map was, a priceless first-generation map of the New World, a cartographic masterpiece. It was celebrated, studied, and preserved. It represented the known world, stitched together by a master cartographer. It represented the official story, the consensus, the established timeline of human exploration, until someone looked closer, until someone looked at the very bottom of the parchment. The glitch is not the map. The map is real. The glitch is what it shows. Look past the coast of Brazil. Follow the line of South America as it curves south, further south than any European explorer had officially gone in 1513. The line continues. It bends eastward, and then it connects. It connects to another massive landmass, a coastline, not a small island. A continent that, according to our timeline, should not be there. This coastline is uncannily familiar. It is unmistakably Antarctica. This single fact shatters our understanding of history. It is not a small discrepancy. It is a system-level failure in our timeline. Why? Because Antarctica was not officially discovered, not even sighted, until the year 1820. A Russian expedition led by Bellingshausen and Lazarev was the first to confirm its existence. That is a gap of 307 years. How? Could Piri Reis, in 1513, map a continent that would remain unknown for another 3 centuries? But the impossibility deepens. The glitch has a second layer. The coastline on the map does not just show Antarctica. It shows an Antarctica without ice. The map depicts the coast of Queen Maud Land, a specific, vast sector of Antarctica facing the Atlantic, a region today buried under thousands of feet of solid ice. The map shows the land itself, the rock, the earth beneath the ice cap. Geologists and seismologists have confirmed this. Using modern techniques like seismic sounding and ground-penetrating radar methods that effectively allow us to see through the ice, we have mapped the subglacial coast of Queen Maud Land. The consensus is clear: the landmass depicted on the Piri Reis Map is a startlingly accurate representation of that hidden, ice-free coast. This detail presents a paradox that cannot be easily dismissed. For Antarctica to be ice-free, as depicted, we must go back, not hundreds of years, not even thousands. Geologists tell us the last time Queen Maud Land was in this condition was, at a minimum, 6,000 years ago. Some estimates push that date back into 13 million years ago, long before human beings even existed. So, the Piri Reis Map is not just a document from 1513. It is not just a map. It is an artifact that claims the impossible. It suggests that someone mapped the coastline of Antarctica when it was ice-free, and that someone was not from the 16th century. The map remained a curiosity, a historical puzzle, until the 1960s. Enter Charles Hapgood. Hapgood was a controversial figure. He was a Harvard-educated historian and professor of the history of science, but his conclusions placed him in direct opposition to the academic consensus. He was so compelling in his earlier arguments that one of his books, Earth-Shifting Crust of Tahit, featured an introduction written by Albert Einstein. Hapgood did not merely look at the Piri Reis Map, he interrogated it. He spent years applying mathematics, geometry, and historical analysis to its strange projections. And in 1966, he published his findings in an explosive, timeline-shattering book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. Hapgood's conclusion was radical. It was terrifying. He argued that the Piri Reis Map was conclusive proof of a highly advanced, unknown civilization in the remote past, a civilization that existed before the last ice age. Hapgood's logic was this: Piri Reis was an admiral, not an explorer. He was a compiler. He told us this himself in his margin notes. He wrote that he used ancient source maps. Hapgood believed him, and Piri Reis's notes offered another tantalizing clue. He also claimed one of his source maps belonged to Christopher Columbus himself. This, for Hapgood, was crucial. It implied the glitch, the impossible knowledge, was already in the hands of European explorers a generation before Piri Reis. Columbus, he argued, did not sail west on a guess, he sailed with a map inherited from the same lost, ancient source. Hapgood proposed that Piri Reis had, in his possession, fragments of maps created by a lost, global maritime civilization, a mother culture. This ancient civilization, Hapgood argued, possessed a staggering knowledge of navigation, astronomy, and cartography. They had mapped the entire globe, from pole to pole. They had done so thousands of years before the civilizations we know, before Egypt, before Sumer, before Babylon. They mapped the world when the climate was different, when Antarctica was temperate and accessible. Then, Hapgood argued, a cataclysm occurred, a global event, perhaps the crustal displacement he had theorized. The ice caps formed rapidly. The seas rose. This mother culture was wiped from the face of the earth. They vanished, but their maps did not. Hapgood proposed that fragments of this ancient global survey, these source maps, survived. They were saved, hidden, and passed down through millennia. They were copied and recopied, losing detail with each generation. They were hidden in libraries like the one in Alexandria or the one in Constantinople that Piri Reis had access to. By 1513, Piri Reis was simply the last link in an ancient chain. He was a man trying to stitch together the known world from the Portuguese with the forgotten world from the source maps. He did not understand what he was drawing at the bottom of his map. He was just copying. Hapgood's theory electrified the world. It provided an answer that meant our entire, carefully constructed history was wrong, that we were a species with amnesia. The Piri Reis Map, Hapgood claimed, was the proof. It was the glitch that exposed the lie. Is Hapgood's theory correct, or is there a more mundane explanation? This is where the role of the honest broker becomes critical. We must examine the evidence from both sides of this divide. The investigation leads down two very different paths. Path 1 follows Hapgood. The proponents of this theory point to more than just the Antarctic coastline. They point to the projection. The map is not a simple, flat drawing. Hapgood and his students, with assistance from the United States Air Force Strategic Air Command, determined that the map is a portolan chart centered on a point near modern-day Cairo. More incredibly, they claimed it used a sophisticated projection, similar to the Mercator style, which requires an advanced understanding of spherical trigonometry, the complex mathematics needed to accurately flatten a round globe onto a 2D map. This was mathematics Piri Reis should not have known. Proponents also point to the accuracy of other areas. The map shows the coast of South America and Africa in stunningly correct relative longitude. This was considered the single greatest challenge for mariners for hundreds of years after Piri Reis. Navigators could find their latitude easily from the stars. But longitude. Finding that required an accurate clock, a chronometer, which was not invented until 1761. Yet, here is a 1513 map appearing to have solved the longitude problem. This evidence, for Hapgood, was the smoking gun, a map projection that should not exist, longitude accuracy that should not be possible, and a continent that should not be visible. The only explanation, a lost, advanced source. But then, we must examine path 2. The path of the academic consensus, the path of the skeptics. This path does not lead to a lost civilization. It leads to a much simpler, human explanation. The map is a distortion. First, the skeptics confront the Antarctica claim directly. They argue, it is not Antarctica at all. Look at the map again. The Antarctic coastline is not floating freely. It is drawn as a direct, eastward bending continuation of the South American continent. The academic explanation is far more mundane, and perhaps far more human. It argues that Piri Reis, a master compiler working with imperfect data, simply ran out of parchment. That the continent is not a lost world. It is the known coast of Patagonia, distorted and bent eastward to fit the page. The mountains and rivers are not. They argue the ice-free coast of Queen Maud Land. They are stylized, exaggerated depictions of the Patagonian coast, or perhaps even mythical lands that sailors believed existed to the south. The map, after all, is filled with decorative illustrations of mythical creatures and fantastical islands. Why? The skeptics ask, would we trust this one section to be hyper-accurate, when other parts are clearly fantasy? Another argument suggests that even if the landmass is Antarctica, it is not the ice-free coast. It could simply be a crude, distorted 16th century attempt to map the edge of the Antarctic ice shelf. A massive wall of ice that early explorers may have sighted and mistaken for land. Second, the skeptics attack the advanced projection and longitude claims. Later, more sober analysis by modern cartographers has refuted the Air Force's initial enthusiastic assessment. They argue the map does not use a Mercator projection. It uses the standard, well-documented Portolan grid, that web of rum lines, radiating from central compass roses. This system was the standard for mariners of the day. And the longitude, it is not as accurate as Hapgood claimed. While the relative distance between Africa and South America is close, many other areas are wildly distorted. This suggests the accuracy is a coincidence, a lucky guess, not the product of advanced science. So, what about the ice-free coast? This, the skeptics say, is the ultimate example of confirmation bias. Hapgood wanted to find a lost civilization, so he interpreted the lines on the map to fit his theory. The similarity, they claim, is a geological coincidence. It is an act of seeing faces in the clouds. A Rorschach test on a piece of parchment. The academic consensus, therefore, is this: the Piri Reis Map is a brilliant, fascinating, and authentic 1513 artifact. It is a composite map. Piri Reis did exactly what he said he did. He took 20 maps, some good, some bad, some from Columbus, some from Portugal, and he stitched them together. The result was a masterpiece, but a flawed one. The glitch at the bottom is not a window into a forgotten world. It is a human error, a distortion, a 16th century attempt to draw the edge of a world that was, for them, still terra incognita, Latin for unknown land. So, we are left with two irreconcilable conclusions. One story, backed by the academic consensus, is tidy. It is logical. It is human. It states that the Piri Reis Map is a flawed masterpiece, a product of its time. The anomalies are simply errors, misinterpretations, and the constraints of a gazelle skin canvas. There is no lost civilization. There is no glitch. Our timeline is secure. The second story, championed by Hapgood, is chaotic. It is provocative. It is extraordinary. It claims the map is a survivor, a message in a bottle from a drowned world, a piece of impossible evidence that demands we rewrite our entire origin story. It suggests we are not the pinnacle of civilization, but merely the latest in the glitch files exists to investigate these moments, the moments where the official story feels thin. The skeptic's explanation is rational, but is it satisfying? Does a distorted Patagonia really look that much like the seismic scans of Queen Maud Land? Is the lucky guess on longitude truly believable? Why did Piri Reis, a master admiral, make such a crude error, bending a continent to fit his page? When he was so meticulous elsewhere, the Piri Reis Map is an honest broker artifact. It refuses to give a simple answer. It is 100% authentic. The date is 100% real. The ink and parchment are 100% from 1513. The problem is what it depicts. If the skeptics are right, we must accept one of the most incredible coincidences in scientific history, a coincidence of geography, a random distortion that matches a hidden coast, a coincidence of history, appearing 300 years before discovery, and a coincidence of geology, depicting a landmass as it was thousands of years ago. But if Hapgood is right, if even a fraction of his theory is correct, well, then this piece of gazelle skin is not just a map, it is a warning. It is a signal that our systems of history are built on a fragile foundation. It proves that our past is darker, deeper, and far more mysterious than we have ever been told. The Piri Reis Map remains. It is a permanent, physical glitch in our official timeline, a silent testament that the version of history we read in textbooks might just be the one that survived, not the one that actually happened.